Welcome to Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered, the podcast where we say the things everyone else whispers, feels, or pretends they're totally fine about. Around here, nothing is too awkward, too messy, or too, oh my god, did she really just say that? Yes, I did. This is your space where real talk, real stories, real emotions, and the kind of honesty that makes you laugh, cry, and heal a little. Sometimes all at once. So grab your drink, get comfy, and let's dive in. Because life's too short to sugarcoat it, and I'm not here to do that anyway. Welcome to Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered. Today I'm joined by Nicole, a birth, postpartum, and grief loss doula who also works as a perinatal mental health therapist. Nicole supports people through some of the most vulnerable and transformative seasons of life, not just around birth and postpartum, but also grief, mental health, and the complex emotions tied to fertility, timing, and choice. In this episode, we're talking about the true role of a doula, mental health in the perinatal space, and the often unspoken grief that comes with watching others move toward parenthood when you're waiting, unable to, choosing not to, or delaying. This is an honest and compassionate conversation, and one I know will resonate deeply with so many listeners. Welcome, Nicole.
Hello, happy to be here.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we jump into the deep topics, tell us a little bit about you outside of work.
So I am married and enjoy hanging out with my husband, like reading, really like doing crafty things, love thrifting, and then one of my favorite TV shows is Law and Order, so I'm a
Oh,
big Law and
nice.
Order fan, and that, and then just participating in activities and trying to find something to always nourish myself, whether mentally or physically. So
Awesome. And do you have any animals?
yeah, so I have a cat named Lilo, and then I have two guinea pigs, one named Goob and the other named Sweet Corn. They're behind me too, so
No.
hopefully they're not loud today, but yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I had guinea pigs for a while when I first became an official adult and lived on my own.
Yes.
So got two supposedly males, but they were male and female, so woke up with 3 babies one day. So
Thankfully, I
but
have
yeah.
two females, so that's not a
Yes,
problem. They're just
of
feisty
course.
against each other.
Oh, yeah.
So
I love guinea pigs. They're great. Their
yeah.
personalities are so fun. What's something people might be surprised to learn about you?
One that I go to sometimes is because, and now this isn't the case so much anymore, but when I started dyeing my hair very colorful colors, and people would potentially just look at me, or like even people that maybe I had just met, they would assume that I wasn't a part of any like religion or anything like that. And so I always think it's funny, and it even happens now, and I'm interested to see how it'll show up even today with my new hair color too. People are just surprised or shocked, and I think it goes to show that you can't judge a book by its cover. So
Absolutely. Yeah, that stereotype is so silly. It doesn't matter what color your hair is.
it doesn't matter. So
No.
yeah, I think that would be something where some people are shocked by it after talking to me about it. But
Yeah, that's a good one. Oh, I know. It's so silly that people
Yeah.
find that, something to be contentious about. Like, it's just what
Exactly.
I chose. Doesn't define who I am as a person.
Exactly.
Well, let's get into some of the heavier stuff and what you do. What drew you into birth, postpartum, and grief loss work?
So when I was working as a community social worker, so after I got my undergrad, I worked at a homeless shelter in Grand Rapids, and then I worked as a community social worker also in Grand Rapids, and then over here in St. Clair County. And what I saw was the fact that a lot of these families, now, of course, there's a lot of scenarios that happen, but a lot of the families that I worked with that especially had younger children that were involved in CPS cases and abuse cases and a lot of detrimental mental health situations, weren't potentially getting the support that they needed at like the point of prenatally or postpartum, that if maybe Now, of course, we never know, but maybe if they had a doula or had someone at least that was intentional about that process be working with them, then there would have potentially been a better outcome right off the rip. Um, so that really is what led me to birth work, and I really recognize that it goes hand in hand. Um, and the way in which families are starting or families are attempting to start really matters.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to be a part of that process to hopefully, right, make it where there's less situations where people are having to be um, in a circumstance to have their families not together.
Understandable. Yeah, absolutely. That's so important. And I'm
Hmm.
so thankful for what you do. And it is very important that people have that guidance. And like you said, that could possibly help a lot of situations not happen. Not
Yeah,
always the case, but that could
right.
help people be more prepared and go through things more easily. So thank you so
Yeah.
much. What do you wish more people understood about what doulas actually do?
I think a lot of people confuse doulas with midwives. So
Yeah.
sometimes people will be like, "Oh, so you deliver the baby?" And I'm like, "No, no, I do not. I'm not doing that." Um,
No.
but I think a lot of people either don't know or don't fully understand the importance of having someone. Now, of course, there are circumstances where the doula does, like, know very personally that person, like friend,
Hmm.
family member, etc. But, like, the importance of having another person outside of potentially yourself, the birthing person, and then the spouse or the partner or the support person, um, to be able to not only help the person giving birth, but also to be able to assist that other person in feeling supported, and being able to support that birthing person. Um, a large part of it is advocacy.
Hmm.
I think that a lot of people could agree that if they maybe would have had another voice in the room, um, they may have not had to have as much worry or as many interventions as they did in their birth. Um,
Right.
so I think that's kind of like the biggest thing is, yeah, I don't deliver the baby, but like emotionally and mentally, and then as well as like physically with like assisting in counter pressure, doulas can be so vital, but especially as an advocate for that birthing person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how does your work as a perinatal therapist go hand in hand with being a doula?
Yeah, so it's been interesting. So obviously, I don't know when, when this episode will come out, right? But um I am almost done with my master's program.
Awesome.
And I have been working as a perinatal mental health therapist in a practice that is actively, right, working with people who are experiencing IVF, going through pregnancy, going through postpartum, going through loss. And so um, I'm actively utilizing not only my knowledge from my therapy practicing for my doula work, but I'm also utilizing the further understanding of what I know as a doula in my perinatal therapy work because of the fact that I don't have kids. It does help elevate the comfortability between both.
Mhm.
That way people feel more comfortable and knowing that I know what I'm talking about rather than having maybe no standard or understanding. Um, so it really impacts it though, because I am able to see some of those warning signs in the doula world now that
Mhm.
many other doulas, as much like, and it's not a bad thing, but as many other doulas like can't see,
Yeah.
because I do have that further education and experience in the mental health piece of it. So,
Yeah, that absolutely would go hand in hand, and like you said, doesn't make you better, you just know more,
right,
and it helps the situation, and you can
right.
help other doulas or people you know with the
Yeah,
information that you know as well, so that's awesome, congratulations,
thank
that's
you.
awesome that you're almost done, and I'm sure you're excited to finally get there, so
Yes. Yeah, I'm done in March, so I'm really just
awesome.
like feeling it. So,
I bet. Well, that's amazing,
yeah.
congratulations. What emotional needs do most people underestimate during this season?
I think so, like, as a whole, so through, the whole perinatal phases, I think that people underestimate the amount that community and what realistic mental health care looks like. Because whatever spectrum of, like, the crunchy part you're on, right, as a
Mhm.
parent, I think that, like, everyone let me see. Sorry, I'm thinking for a second.
Oh, you're fine.
Everyone has maybe an idea that, like, "Oh, okay, like, I've heard about postpartum depression, but, like, that's not gonna be me." Right?
Mhm.
Like, and the thing is, like, postpartum mental health disorders, it's not just depression. So, like,
Mm-mm.
I think that people don't think about, like, how can prenatal anxiety come up? How
Mhm.
can postpartum anxiety or postpartum OCD or postpartum depression, right? Like, how can
Mhm.
those things show up? And, like, not having the ability or not feeling safe to talk about what those things could look like. Because even if, and the hope is that nobody has that, right?
Yeah.
Nobody
Mhm.
deals with that. But the reality is many, many people deal with it.
Mhm.
So being able to not necessarily like prepare yourself for the worst because we don't wanna do that, but also be aware of, like, "Okay, well, how does this normally show up for me? And how can I either myself or have other people in the home or other people around me be aware of when I'm acting outside of my norm?"
Yeah, absolutely.
So, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. What emotions tend to come up for people who are waiting, delaying, or unable to have children?
I think it's what I've come across is a lot of melancholy.
Mhm.
Uh, and it will vary from each reason, right?
Mhm.
So, maybe someone, right, who has tried and tried and tried, especially utilizing IVF, and those have been failed attempts, right? They are potentially going to have a different reaction or feeling than someone who is delaying at this time to have children. Because
Mhm.
the feeling of melancholy and grief and like emptiness a little bit is there regardless of what reason, but I think it's also potentially approached differently in society dependent on that reason. So yeah, I would just say melancholy is a lot of what I see, but I do try to encourage um that it doesn't mean that people are less than because they are either making this decision or their body is making this decision for them. It just means that the path is going to look different. Um, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as somebody that's had 8
Yeah.
losses, I completely understand that. And it is different. It's looked at different from society. And there are different feelings with that. And yeah, it is hard to not feel the judgment or the stigma, if you can't have kids or if you're delaying, there's so much that
Yeah.
goes into that. So people just
Yeah.
don't understand unless they've been through it. So,
Yeah. And I would add to this too of there's a lot of feelings that come up when people are talking about children, right? And then
hmm
also, I mean, a lot of us know that I mean, we probably all know someone in our lives that maybe we assume shouldn't be trying to have kids or
yeah.
shouldn't be continuing to have kids because of their
hmm
circumstances. And that can lead into jealousy, that can lead into anger. But it's being aware of like, there's no right way to approach this and being
Absolutely.
able to have an understanding and having realistic support
hmm
in talking about this when just being able to sit in the understanding of, like, there is no further understanding.
Yeah, completely, completely. That definitely makes a lot of sense. That kind of leads into my next question is how do you support people through baby announcement showers or pregnancy heavy spaces?
Yeah, so well, it depends. So,
Mhm.
in my role as a doula, I dependent on the person and dependent on that relationship already, um, I will potentially, like, not start working with them when they find out that they're pregnant, like, it's later
Mhm.
on, um, dependent on the client, but, I've had it where I've gone to a doula client's baby shower because they wanted me there, or assisted another person in navigating how to tell their family that they were having their 3rd child. Um, I do feel like, however, especially with that second one, that it's important to know family dynamics,
Mhm.
family, the way in which family structure works, not even just like their personal family, but having a knowledge of like, okay, how are they, as my client, going to navigate like
Right.
telling people that maybe aren't going to be supportive or telling people in their family that may have dealt with loss and are going to have
Mhm.
a different reaction than they were expecting.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way in which I support, but I always come at it with, obviously boundary, but also excitement for that person because the idea, again, right, regardless if
Mhm.
it is in other people's plan or not, it is important for that person to be celebrated to, again, create less of that cycle of um ungood, I guess.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, and it is, like I said, not to always bring my own situation into it, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's you hear a lot of things, you feel a lot of things, and the jealousy is there, and you don't mean to have that, but it's there, and that kind of leads me
Yeah.
into my next question is what are some common comments that are meant to be helpful but actually cause harm?
Could I ask for a clarifier regarding specifically what?
So, let's see here. So, outside family members, even during a pregnancy or a loss, like
Oh,
comments that even if they are having a healthy baby or anything, like, I know a lot of my guests won't
yeah.
know this, but we did have a previous episode and we did talk about that a little bit about the outside noise and things,
Yeah.
how you need to put yourself first. It's your immediate family versus the entire
Oh,
family.
yes. Okay. So, couple different things. I think I hear often that people have a lot of assumptions about how you should have your pregnancy or how you
Hmm.
should approach parenthood. And I think that on one hand, yes, it's important to share experiences and be a community. And like, what is that person's intent in saying that?
Hmm. Yeah.
I think that's my biggest thing is that I often hear people that be like, oh, okay, well, for instance, are you vaccinating your child? Are you are you circumcising them? Are you then doing this? Oh, are you eating this in pregnancy? Oh,
Hmm.
you shouldn't be doing that. Especially as a doula, and I mean, even more so as a therapist, like understanding both fortunately and unfortunately for people that
Hmm.
everyone has, to the highest extent that they can, control of their body and what they're
Hmm.
going to do with it
Yeah.
in
Exactly.
pregnancy or not. So I think
Yeah.
like I think just like I know that didn't like necessarily answer it really, but like being able to be at an understanding where like people are going to ask you what you plan to do or
Mhm.
like what that looks like, and whether this be in therapy or with your friends or in other circumstances where you trust someone to like talk about it, create a game plan and how you're potentially going to respond to those,
Mhm.
if at all, because you don't have
Right.
to respond. And I think
Yeah.
people don't remember that.
Yeah, I think that's important. That's a very important and valid point. Like, you don't have to. You don't
Yeah,
owe
you
them
can just say, like,
anything, so
"Actually, I don't wanna share that,"
Yeah,
like
yeah.
but I think people get uncomfortable with that. So, like, really
Mhm.
working on honing in, like, how are you gonna approach that? And, like,
Yeah.
what's gonna be the
Mhm.
best for you and your family?
Right, exactly. Yeah, you can even word that something as like, "I don't really wanna discuss that, that's my choice,
Yeah,
I appreciate your concern and stuff." So
yeah.
exactly. So, how can friends and family show up in more supportive ways?
I saw this a lot recently, of everyone potentially wants a village, but no one is being an active participant in that village. So village, when we use that word, doesn't have to look anything crazy. But I think for friends and family to be on a general understanding, at least like the tip of the iceberg of what the perinatal world looks like
Mhm.
would help everyone out because
Yeah.
that would give a baseline understanding of like, oh, okay, well, for instance, if that family member, let's say they had whatever amount of kids and they did something a certain way 30 years ago. Okay, well, can they think back to how they handled it and like apply like the thought process of what they would have wanted in this situation with their family
Mhm.
member? Um, but I would just say be informed as a family member and a friend. Also, do what you can to accurately communicate with that person. And they're gonna hopefully, especially if it's a friend and a close friend, they're gonna know what that person's baseline is, right? Their
Mhm.
norm. And also hopefully know how to, even if that person is struggling deeply, communicate with them in a way of like, okay, well, I'm gonna drop this off for you. Or hey, I'll take your other kids to go to the park. Or hey, do you want me to sit with you and we can watch a movie while you're breastfeeding? Or hey,
Mhm.
like I just know like I can even pull from personal experience. Like a
Mhm.
lot of my friends have had children, especially recently within the past like 2 years. And I am making sure that as their friend, I'm being an active participant by saying we can get together for an hour while your baby sleeps.
Yeah.
Or hey, I know that you can't text a lot right now, but I'm gonna send you these things, respond when you can.
Mhm.
Or like, hey, I'm gonna bring you a coffee. Or, and again, it depends on like what stage that person
Mhm.
is at with pregnancy or postpartum. But I think that it's important to be an active participant. And if I also have found if you are someone that you perceive to be close to that person who has gone through postpartum or is going through postpartum or going through pregnancy, like how do you want to show them love? How do you want to show them
Yeah.
care? And this is the last thing about that too, is like talking about this before the fact too. Like,
Mhm.
so for instance, people never know what their postpartum is going to look like, right? Exactly. But being able to kind of plan and talk about that with your friends and your family members of how you potentially are going to want to receive support and
Mhm.
talking about that beforehand. Because again, it goes back to communication. So,
Yeah. That's absolutely so important, kinda having a game plan. Like you said, you never know what or how it's gonna be after. You may not have any
yeah,
postpartum, or you may have one of the worst postpartum cases
yeah,
around. You have no idea what's gonna happen or what your body's gonna put you through afterwards,
exactly.
so
Yeah,
yeah, definitely, and, as somebody I have like you said, it kinda depends on the friend and the friendship
yep,
as well. I had somebody I was friends with for over 30 years, and I was with in the delivery room for her first 2
exactly.
children, and then I was kind of like an extra parent, like, I helped
Yes.
change, feed, went to appointments, like, I did all the dirty
Yeah,
work. And then I have another friend that is a mother of 4, and we are close, but she's more private and stuff like that, so that's I
yeah,
would do, like you said, reach out like, "Hey, do you want me to come over while the baby's sleeping, or do you need me to do anything for
yeah,
you, help you with anything?" So it's just being supportive in the ways that will help that specific person. So,
exactly.
yes. Do you have a specific birth story that really stuck with you or something that you always remember? Of course, with no HIPAA rules involved, but, anything that you could share with
Yeah.
us?
I think let me see. So I attended a birth in the beginning of December and it was memorable because of the fact that, this mom had already had 7 children. And so this was her 8th. And I think that it was memorable both in a way of like excitement and also like just understanding the importance of being like an extra pair of eyes, extra pair of ears,
Mhm.
extra voice, in that, and like the importance of having that extra support and me being that extra support person, um, especially after a long day of laboring and things,
Mhm.
going maybe slower than anticipated and just navigating all of that, to have then witness to the delivery at the end of that
Mhm.
and the rush of that and then the calm and the stillness, it was just memorable because even I guess this is my point too, even witnessing someone who has had a lot of children already, um, and seeing the experience be so different for them or, um each having its unique experience and seem
Mhm.
so excited and glad, that just impacts me every time. And then that's further, right? Why I do what I do in the doula
Mhm.
space. So
Absolutely. Yeah, that's amazing. And like you said, she's already had 7 children beforehand, but every birth is different and every
yeah.
situation is different. So that's amazing that you got to witness that and be part of that special moment. So,
Yeah, and it's amazing too because it was her first time having a doula. So,
mhm.
that
Aw.
also goes to show
Yeah,
that it doesn't necessarily matter what birth you're on, you can have a doula at that time. So,
absolutely. So, with your work in doula and perinatal, do you have anything in the medical or reproductive spaces that you would like to see change or stigmas around that change?
yeah, so how do I say this? So basically, I think one of the things that I've noticed a lot is the struggle in getting specified mental health care. Um, so like for instance, I know I'm a perinatal mental health therapist, right?
Mhm.
But a lot of people I know that could benefit from perinatal mental health therapy either don't see it as an option or they don't see it like people don't talk about it being a possibility,
Mhm.
not just because of finances, but like it's just not accessible like in this area. And so I'd like to see that change, and I do plan to change it because I'm gonna be in this area, right? So,
Yes.
and then also I think just the reality of a lot of systems, whether it be in birth centers or hospitals, or even, it can get tricky sometimes with home births and midwives too, but,
Mhm.
um, really making sure that, yes, of course, we want baby to be safe and we want mom to be safe, but like, are we being intentional with the amount of things that are must-dos versus
Mhm.
not?
Yeah,
Because that can lead to a lot more trauma than necessary. So,
absolutely.
the hope would be is that there's more trauma-informed care and there's a shift in the view from the medical systems on how we approach birth.
Yeah, that's absolutely so important, and as you said, before I met with you or knew of what you did, I didn't know there was perinatal a therapist out there, anything like that, so it is so important, and that's one reason I wanted to have you on was to
Yeah,
share, so people realize, and that's one big thing with this podcast. I've had a lot of different outlets and different
yeah,
therapies, things like that, that people don't even realize that are out there. Like, I had a
right.
peer recovery supporter. People don't realize that you can go to someone like that. They think you have to always go to the
Exactly.
most professional level. And that
Right?
may not always be the best case for you, so it's
Exactly.
awesome. I'm so glad there's so many different types out there nowadays, and
Yes.
you can have options, but it's getting the information out there, so
Exactly. It's so important.
yes. How do you personally take care of yourself without bringing every situation home or letting it bleed into your day-to-day? I know that's probably impossible, but, how do you check out of what you do
Yeah.
every day?
So I would say that it's much better now. versus potentially when I was working at my more community-based social work.
Mhm.
Um, with that, so now we're looking at like I did 5 years in community social work. So I was typically on call, technically, for people 24/7 because they were in
Mhm.
crisis. It was, I mean, obviously I survived that and handled that and did that well, right? But it was much more difficult to take care of myself in that manner because obviously not only as an empath, but also as someone who was like, the purpose of my job was to be there for that person.
Mhm.
Um, it can kind of create this unknowing reliance on being available for people all the time. Um, but now, I
That's
mean, even with doula work and like especially,
Mhm.
yeah, I know I'm finishing up grad school, but uh, there's such a there's more of a cut and dry in a way of, for instance, I have a session with a client, a therapy client, and I am meeting with them for an hour, and then, you know, then that hour's done. I do my
Mhm.
notes, and then that's done. You
Yeah.
know, I do feel like because there's not that expectation of being emotionally available all the time, that's where I'm able to further take care of myself. Because, of course, like, if there's something very serious going on with a therapy client, I will be like, okay, well, I need to make a note of this, or how am I going to show up and talk about this in supervision potentially.
Mhm.
But that system, just like like private practice therapy in general, as a system, looks way different than community social work, and that's not
Absolutely.
anybody's fault. But like that system needs to become better in order to not have
Mhm.
people burn out, right? So,
Yeah. Oh,
um,
yeah.
but yes, so the main way that I kind of put things to the side or like let things go now is journal about them, talk about them in supervision, and adequately do hobbies and crafts and like actively engage with the people I care about in order to
Mhm.
nourish myself again. So,
Yeah, that's absolutely so important. And as you said, kind of in that more social type work, it's almost impossible to stop, being on call 24/7. You're in those
yeah,
crisis situations, and that's a lot. Even the situations themselves is a lot. So, yeah, on the different side of it, you can be a little more relaxed with that. You know that
yeah,
once you're done with your session and notes, you're done with that client for now. Of course, I'm
yeah,
sure you always think of them, and there's times where they may need you
yeah,
outside of the norm. And
of
I'm sure a
course.
doula, babies don't come on a specific time.
Right, right.
So you may
So,
get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, so
yes, and so that's what I would say too. So, like, with doula clients, that's a bit different, right? Because,
Mhm,
then even with that though, we're as a doula, like, only on call for maybe like 3 weeks, 4
mhm,
weeks in comparison to their whole pregnancy. That is also way different than being on
yeah,
call for 6 months with a person that's going through crisis.
yeah, that
And
makes
not
sense.
saying that, you know, my therapy clients and doula clients won't go through crisis, but it's just definitely a different like handle of crisis than
Mhm.
what I was doing. Without, yeah. So I loved what I did, but I'm definitely happy doing what I'm doing now.
I'm sure that takes a lot on somebody. I know
Yeah.
some people that have worked in social work, and it's hard. It's not
Yeah.
easy, so we give you
Yeah.
a lot of credit and are thankful for the time that you did put into that space and that
Yes.
made you who you are and made you more
Yeah,
understanding of
exactly.
situations, so yeah, and I've been
Exactly.
seeing that a lot lately. Going back to how you take care of yourself is writing. That's come up a lot in the
Yeah.
last couple episodes that I've done. Is even in my own life. That's how I, dealt with after my third loss. I just started like blogging and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
whether nobody ever sees that or if it's
Right.
personal, like that really does help a lot to get some healing and some thoughts out there. So a lot of people don't even think about that, and that's a way that you can help yourself. So
Exactly.
that was all of my questions that I have for you on that topic. Do you have anything else that you'd like to bring up or talk about specifically?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, before I let you go, I always like to end with some rapid fire questions just to lighten the mood after such heavy topics. So we'll go into those. Are you a coffee or a tea drinker?
Mainly coffee, but I love a good tea.
Yeah. There's a time and space for both, I think.
Yes.
Favorite comfort show?
This is ridiculous, and it doesn't seem like it'd be a comfort, but Law& and Order SVU.
Oh,
Like,
I get it. I like true crime. Me and my
yeah,
husband will sit on YouTube for hours and watch body cam videos and stuff
yeah.
like that. And,
Now
I
they're,
think
like,
all of us like our
relaxing.
true crime
Yeah,
docs. Yeah.
yeah.
It's just our generation. That is our comfort.
I
It's funny.
know.
We're some demented people, I think.
Oh, hilarious.
I think millennials have just been through so much that nothing
The
phases us.
trauma, man. Like, we just
Yeah.
gotta get through it.
Absolutely.
Oh.
I always see that none of us are going to hit midlife crisis because it's been our whole life.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh.
Homebody or out and about?
Oh, see, it depends because
Yeah.
I'm either like, I want to be at home and I want to be doing my things, or I need to get out of this house and go to a
Yeah.
coffee shop and sit around and be around people, you know?
Right.
So,
It just depends on the situation and the feeling.
yeah.
I get it. I work from home, so I get stir crazy, and my errands even it's fun to get out.
Yes. Yes.
Early mornings or late nights?
Oh, definitely early mornings in the sense of like, I'm not a girl that can be like up past 11. Like
Hmm.
10:30 even is like, I'm tired. I need to go to sleep. And
Yeah.
then, you know, by early morning, I'm typically up between like 6 and 7, depending.
Yeah. That
So,
makes sense. Yeah. Favorite season of the year?
oh, I love fall, but winter is my second.
Hmm.
I love
Yeah.
sweaters though, so
Yeah, being cozy, be able to I'd love to
yeah.
be able to put a hoodie on or like you said, a nice sweater or
Layers,
something. I
like
love
love a
fall
good
too, is my
layer,
favorite.
love wearing tights, like
Oh
I don't
yeah.
want to be hot. Okay.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I don't hate winter either. A lot of people
Yeah.
do, so. One small thing that instantly boosts your mood.
Um okay, so it depends, but typically like if I'm at home and I need, like, a mood booster, I'll, like, look around at, like, all my little knick-knack, like, joyful things, and
Mhm.
I'm good. Like, I'm like, "Oh, okay," like, "Look how
That's
cute that
awesome.
is," or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, for
Yeah.
instance, like, right now, I have this, like, duck that, like, lays flat, and it, like, looks like it's, like, melting into the thing, and I'm like, "That's joyful. That's so like, silly, but, like,
Yeah.
it's joyful." So, like, it doesn't take a whole lot to at least get me up a little bit, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. I understand that. I have a bunch of trinkets and stuff all
Yeah.
over my desk, and I have shelves. And I'm not sure if you ever watched the show Roseanne, but I always
Oh,
think
yeah.
of when they went the episode where they played bingo, and she brought all her little trinkets. I
Yeah.
always think of that's
Mood.
me. So
Such mood.
yeah, yeah, for sure, absolutely. I actually had a somatic therapist on yesterday, and we were talking about how the senses and like just
Yeah.
pulling yourself into the moment, even a scent or something helps if you get
Yes.
back on track and feel more relaxed. So,
Exactly.
ideal vacation, beach, mountains, or city?
Uh, so I would say city only because I want to go to Japan, Korea, Asian areas.
Nice.
Um, but I love a good mountain. I just don't like climbing them.
Yeah, they're beautiful to look at and like be in a
Yeah.
nice cabin, but I agree. I don't really want to climb it either. Something you're currently enjoying or obsessed with?
I'm currently enjoying learning Korean, so I've started doing that.
Oh, awesome.
And then something I'm obsessed with currently, um, whenever I'm like doing something where I don't really need to be paying attention and I just want something on in the background, I will look up on YouTube like soft jazz or something, but now
Mm.
it's accumulated or like adjusted itself so much to me to where like now it'll have these very cutesy backgrounds like while the jazz is playing, and I'm like,
Mhm.
that's just satisfying and something I'm enjoying. So
Oh, yeah. I completely understand that. I do that a lot myself. The lo-fi or the low-key or
yeah,
whatever they are. I put those on in the background. It's so
yeah,
relaxing when you're trying to get work done or read or
yeah,
anything. So that's
exactly.
awesome. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge,
Alright.
your heart, and your lived experience today. These conversations are so important, and I know this episode is going to help so many people feel seen and validated. If this conversation resonated with you, please remember you're not alone. Your feelings are real, your grief is valid, and your journey doesn't need to look like anybody else's. Thank you for listening to Auntie Mel Mel's Life Unfiltered. I'll see you next time. All right, friends, that's a wrap on today's episode of Auntie Mel Mel Life Unfiltered. Thank you for spending this time with me and stepping into the real, the raw, the messy, and the magical, because we don't do surface level here. If this episode hit home, made you laugh, or helped you feel a little less alone, go ahead and follow the podcast and share it with someone who might need it too. And remember, you are never too much, never too little, and never alone on this wild ride. I'll meet you back here next time for more truth, more feels, and more unfiltered goodness. This is Auntie Mel Mel signing off. Stay real, stay kind, and stay unfiltered. Thanks for hanging out with me today. This is Auntie Mel Mel. If this episode made you laugh, think, or feel a little less alone, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Sharing it really helps this community grow. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, and right here on YouTube. I'll see you in the next episode of Life Unfiltered.